Welcome again to our lesson number 7, Chess for Beginners. Today we are going to continue with our series of lessons and mainly in the opening, space, and the center. My name is FM Steve. In our lesson today, we want to focus at the importance of pawns when they control the center. So we are going to look at situations. For instance, this pawn, when the pawn is at e4, this pawn controls key squares d5 and f5. So what it means is that black can't play any of the pieces in these squares without uh, without losing them. The same can be said if white can manage to get another pawn at d4, then this becomes even a better way of playing, because when white now plays the two pawns at the center, then white is controlling even more squares. With the pawn at e4, it can give support to a piece, let's say bishop to c4, because now it's very difficult for black to play d5. But if white starts with a pawn at e3, so let's say pawn e3, then white and black played e5. White won't be able to play bishop to c4 because black will just challenge and attack it. So most of the time, any person who can manage to control the central squares stands more chance of winning. Step number 1 is to try and control the center, and then step number 2 is to go for space. When you are controlling more space, you even stand more chances of winning because you are restricting your opponent's pieces from playing. We are going to look at an example of a game that was played, and in this game white played d4, black played d5, white played c4. Now, as I had mentioned in our early class, the idea of c4 is to try and remove black from controlling the center. So we will try to ensure that black does not control the center. So that's why c4 move. Now, the point, it may look like it's a free pawn, but that's not the case, because after black captures, now black does not have any pawn controlling the center, and white can regain the pawn easily through queen a4 check and then captures. Or another move white can do is not to go for the pawn as soon as possible, probably play knight c3 with e4 in mind. Then white will consider capturing the pawn using the bishop. Just to take you very fast how the game was played. After d4, d5, c4. So black knows this, and most of the time black will either respond by c6 or e6. The idea is if white captures the pawn, black will recapture back, and black has control of the center. So that's the idea. e6, and now white played knight f3 and black played knight f6. This is just part of developing the pieces, as we've mentioned in our other classes. White now captured, c takes d, and the best way of black to pick is pawn. Pawn picks back, and black will be doing good. We want to see why pawn picks is good for black. There are 3 key things to remember. If black picks with a pawn, black controls the 2 key squares, central squares. 2, black makes way for the bishop. And 3, it's very difficult for white to keep control of the center by playing e4. Instead, what black did, black captured with the knight. This difference may look something so minimal, but its effect is huge. One, this bishop's diagonal is blocked, so this bishop is not sitting pretty here. And two, black now gives white a free developing move, like just e4, white keeps control of the more squares at the center, and black is forced to retreat. Now you can see white is just winning. So white played knight c3, all the center belongs to white. Black played bishop e7, and now white played bishop d3. Now you can see the sharpness. White has control of the center. Anytime from now, white will be advancing this pawn to e5, making way for the bishop, and with a very dangerous attack. So black castled, and white castled. We now need to ask ourselves what should be black's game plan. Black must first think about these pieces coming into play and trying to undermine white's center, because white center is too strong that cannot just be left unchallenged. So black has to find a way of challenging that center. Black therefore played c5, which is a good move. White won't be having a strong center. So white captured and black captured. Now black's main concerns now are these pieces. In fact, by extension, the rook. Because if the bishop and knight are not playing, then it means the three pieces are not playing, because the rook is sick here. So somehow black must find a way of playing the bishop and playing the knight. When you are playing chess, one of the ideas is make it difficult for your opponent to improve their position, and keep improving your position bit by bit. So after bishop picks c5, white white played e5, and this move is key. Now let's look at the e5 move. E5 move, first, the bishop is now very powerful, and you can see the attack coming because knight can always move to g5 and queen can come to h5, or queen can come to e4 targeting h7, and this attack will be very, very dangerous for black. After e5 was played, black tried bishop e7. As I mentioned, these ideas of knight g5 and queen h5 was very, very dangerous, and therefore bishop e7, queen e2. Now look at what's happening on the board. What white is trying to do is to move the queen to e4 and go for checkmate at h7. The other reason why queen e2 has been played is to prepare for the rook to come at d1. So when the rook comes to d1, there will always be a threat on black's queen. So what happened next? As we said, black has problem because these pieces are not playing. So black played knight c6 and rook d1. Simple chess, very good chess from white. There is a real threat. Bishop picks, pawn check, and the queen will be attacked. So black must deal with this threat, and therefore black tried knight d5. So the question now is how should white proceed? Any advantage in chess counts towards victory. And when we talk about advantage, we refer to you may be a piece up, you may be a pawn up, all these counts as advantages. So white just played bishop e4. In our early classes, we talked about uh, counting materials. So you'll see that three forces are going after the knight. We have the knight, we have the bishop, and we have the rook. And black defends with the pawn and the queen. So three forces versus two. So black must do something. So here what black did, black decided to unpin himself. Knight takes knight. The point is simple. The rook can't capture the queen because black will capture again with a check. So white may end up even losing a piece. Therefore, at this point, what uh, what what happened next was white played a very clever move. Bishop takes h7. I want you to pause the video and try to figure out why bishop picks h7 is a great move and what's the intention. So the intention of that move is to try and escape. If the king captures, then the queen will move out of danger from the knight with a check, and white will end up, because black must respond to check, so white will end up gaining black's queen next. So this bishop can't be captured. Therefore, the king had to move to h8, and now white captured. So the queen is still under attack. Therefore, black must figure out and try to play aggressively. When you are playing chess, try to figure out moves that are aggressive. So black played queen a5, attacking the pawn, and the bishop is now about to be captured. So white has to give the pawn because pawn is attacked by the queen and the bishop is attacked. So the bishop moved to c2, queen captured, and all of a sudden it seems like black is doing well. In terms of material, white has 5 pawns, black has 5 pawns, two bishops, two bishops, two bishops, knight, knight, and two rooks, queen, queen. So from the look of things, it's like they're even. But we said the purpose of playing chess is to checkmate the king. And black's king has no cover. Black's king is doing very bad. So at this point, white decided to just go straight for a checkmate. That's a threat. Black has no time to capture the rook because by doing so, this is a checkmate. So black cannot capture the rook for now, but must think about preventing mate. So g6 was played, and white played a very interesting move. Now I want you to pause the video and try to figure out the move that was played by white. Okay, if you got this, this is brilliant. Knight g5. Now the idea is to play queen h4 check followed by mate. Remember, this pawn is playing key significant role in the attack. Still, queen can't capture the rook. So black tried queen b4, And white played another interesting move. Knight takes f7 check. Rook picks and the queen captured at g6. Now the rook is attacked. Of course, maybe someone may ask and feel like, but the knight can take and defend the rook. If the knight captures, then the queen will move check and take the knight. And after that, this position is looking very, very bad for black. So black tried rook, rook g7, white went queen h4 check, king g8, and now white played bishop h6, the only piece that was not yet developed. Bishop h6 looking very, very dangerous. Here, black must decide to sacrifice an exchange, give up an exchange, because they can't save the rook. If they go rook f7, queen g6 check, and the rook is falling. So, so black now played bishop f8. Of course, white captured, bishop takes rook, and bishop takes. And after that, white played a very interesting move, which was more winning. White played rook to d3. Now, rook d3 is very interesting because it's targeting to move to f3, take cover of the f file, and then go checkmate. So after rook d3, rook d1 to d3, black captured at e5. Now look at it. Let's look at the material wise. In terms of material, black has more pieces because white has two rooks, black has one rook and three minor pieces, whereas white has only one minor piece. But black's king has no cover, and this is the undoing for black. So bishop takes e5, rook f3 with a simple threat of mate at h7. So queen had to go to e7 to prevent mate, queen g6 check. Now you see queen here check. If they move the king, there are only two moves for black. Either move the king to h8 or prevent by playing queen g7. So if you move the king, the rook h3 is a checkmate. Check, queen blocks, and then checkmate. So queen had to move to g7 and queen e8 check. And here it was mate in one. Queen blocks, the only move will be queen blocks, queen picks, and it's a checkmate. So at this point, black resigned. Of course, sensing mate next move, so black resigned. Now, we want to see, look at what costed black the game. One was wrong capture. Black was supposed to pick with a pawn and make way for the bishop. Now that black didn't capture with the pawn, black did not have any control of the center, and the bishop was unable to develop. So this was the main undoing. The rook never played at all in the game. If you look at white, the reason why white won, white sees the center, white gave support and cover for his pieces as they developed in attacking squares. White ensured that black had a cramped position. So it's very important every time you are playing to try and take control of the center. Ensure that your opponent does not get those space. White also won because he went for the space. By playing e5, white went for the space. White created a base for his pieces on e4 and e4, e5. So creating that diagonal for the bishop, and later on queen joined e4. So you can see that pawn push was key because after e5, it went for space, it gave support, it gave base for the pieces to dominate. First, the bishop, they put pressure at the knight that was at d5, then eventually, still at e4, they placed their queen with the threats of checkmate. Now, another key point to note in the game was White ensured that he didn't lose initiative. He maintained the tempo from the start to the finish. The moment Black didn't capture the correct way, White didn't give Black any room to recover. So, as we said, and as I've always mentioned, whenever you are playing chess, don't be in a hurry. Don't rush. Don't feel like you just want to start the game and finish it off, checkmate. That may not give you the result. You may get few wins through total beginners, but in the long run, it may not give you the desired results. So you need to improve, need to learn how to keep developing your pieces, look at the key moves, address the concern for all your pieces, and chess will become easy for you and victory will be yours. We are all developing together. Chess, like any other sport, it's a continuous exercise. I cannot say that I'm a FIDE master, so I don't need to learn, but I still need to learn. And that's why I keep saying, let's develop together. This has been FM Steve taking you through chess, developing your skills. Don't forget to like, subscribe to our YouTube channel, Better Chess. I'll see you next very soon for our next lesson. Thank you and goodbye.